Hey there, everyone. This is a updated version of my podcast tutorial for the partner podcast for the CM102 class. And in this one, unlike in the past, we're not going to use Adobe Audition today. We're going to use Adobe Premiere Pro, mainly because Adobe has put a lot more audio features into Premiere Pro recently in the last couple of years than they have Audition, and I think they're really helpful for this podcast assignment. So we're going to be using that instead of Audition. So first things first, let's open up Premiere Pro. I'm going to go ahead and open up my software here. Now in this case, I'm going to do everything inside here, including recording it. You can record your script ahead of time on your phone or another recording device and bring in the audio from that, but I'm going to do everything right here inside Premiere Pro. So first things first, I need to create a new project. And that brings up my little window here. Can give it a name. I'm going to navigate. So always make sure you know where you're saving it to. This happens to already be inside my folder that I want it to be in. I'm going to create a new folder inside here. So that's inside a folder called Partner Podcast. I'm going to name it the same thing just to keep myself organized. I'm not going to use any of these templates right here. And go ahead and create. Now there's one thing here, skip import mode. So you can go ahead and skip this entire screen. So I'm going to check that off and hit create there. And that brings me right to this screen here. So now we need to go ahead and record into here. But before we do that, we actually have to create a timeline. Now before we create a timeline, let's make sure everyone's looking at the same layout, because this is based off the last thing I had going on when I opened up this program. It might be different from what you have. So if you go up here to the top right, you have this little selector for your different layouts. I usually like to start in my editing layout. It's the most familiar for a lot of people. And what we need to do is actually create a timeline or a sequence down here in the bottom. So if you go up to your menu bar, go to File, New, Sequence, that'll open up this window that lets you create sequences. And you can see you have a couple of different options here. We're going to choose the HD 1080 29.97. So that's kind of 30 frames a second. That's your most common for like TV broadcast kind of thing. And down here, we're going to give it a name. Don't just leave it how it is. I'm going to name it after the person I interviewed. I can also name it Profile, might be more appropriate. So Angela Profile, and press OK. Now here we are, we have our timeline. There's another thing we need to do before we can record in here. So if you have it already recorded on your phone, you can actually airdrop it to your desktop and then just drag your file into your project window here on the left, and it'll appear there, and then you can drag it onto your timeline for editing. If you're going to record straight into the program, we need to go into our settings and change a couple of things. So I'm going to go up here to the menu bar, hit Premiere Pro, go to Settings, come down to Audio Hardware. Where it says Default Input, I want to make sure that I have my microphone selected that I want to use. Right now, it's actually selected towards the microphone I'm using to record with. I can actually change it to my MacBook Pro, or my phone is connected to here. There's a couple of different things that you see on my computer that you probably won't see on yours. You're probably just going to see MacBook Pro microphone or something like that. So I'm just going to leave it like that. You also have your output. This is going to my speakers that are plugged into my monitor here. You can change it to your earbuds, whatever. And when you're done, make sure you hit the OK button. But there's one other thing I want to change before we do that. Under the Audio tab, I want to make sure I mute my input during timeline recording. So I'm going to check that off. If I don't have that checked, when I hit record, I'm actually going to get some feedback. It's fine if I have headphones on. It's usually not a problem, but if I'm not with headphones on, it's going to actually echo through my speakers. And even when I have headphones on, I find sometimes it's delayed a little bit, which messes me up. So I like to mute that and just hit OK. Great. Now we're ready to record. The only thing I need now is my script. So I have my script open here in a Word document. Here it is. Now to start recording, so you can have this printed out, you can have it on your screen, however it's comfortable for you. So I have my script ready. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to record right into this audio track 1. So A1, that's my first audio track. To do that, I'm just going to press this microphone button. See, when I hover over it, it says voice over record. So I'm going to hit this. It's going to give me a little countdown in my program window here, 3, 2, 1, and then I can start recording once it gets past the 1. I'm going to have to hit record and then go back to my Word document afterwards. So I'm going to hit the button and get my Word document up. Hello, this is Keith Strove with a student profile. Recently, I sat down with Angela Salvatore, a freshman at Sacred Heart University. Angela comes from Long Island. Let's try that sentence again. 3, 2, 1. Angela comes from Long Island. That is a hard thing to say sometimes. Angela comes from Long Island, where she attended Wheatley High School and was the 3, 2, 1. Angela comes from Long Island, where she attended Wheatley High School and was the president of the video club during her junior and senior years. In addition to her involvement in the video club, Angela was also a member of the gymnastics club, with the flow routine being her favorite event. She is also a black belt in Taekwondo and practices the extreme stylings of parkour and is a certified stunt trainer. Activities like these come with risks. Angela has suffered from a concussion and has fractured her L4 and L5 vertebrae. I'm excited about the experiences that she brings to the program, and I'm looking forward to the work she will be producing in the coming years at Sacred Heart University. This has been Keith Strove with a student profile. Thanks for listening. And then we come in and hit that same microphone button, and there we go. We have it recorded. We can zoom in on my timeline. I'm pressing the plus button on my keyboard to zoom in and zoom minus button to zoom out. And we can listen back to it. Sat down with Angela Salvatore, a freshman at Sacred Heart University. Angela comes from... Now there it is. Now you notice one thing as I play it. If you look in the right, it's only coming out of the left side at the moment. We're going to fix that, so don't worry about it just yet. First, what I want to do is edit the content. And then we're going to take care of the audio features as far as it being only in the left channel and other things like that afterwards. Because it's also kind of low. The recording's pretty low right now. So I want to bring that up as well. First, I want to edit my content. So I'm going to go back to the top right here and click on my workspaces and go to text-based editing. And when I open this up, this is a really awesome area. In the text-based editing, I can now click on here. I'm going to click on my text. Oops, click on there. And on the top left, click on transcript. And you'll see here, so it might have already been there by default, might have been on graphics. Just make sure you click the transcript tab, then hit transcribe. It's going to go ahead and listen to my audio and transcribe it into text format. And here's all the words I just said. Now, you'll see it does not spell my name correctly. That's fine. I can actually click on here, double click, and correct the spelling of how to pronounce my name. I'll do that again here at the bottom. And now what I can go and do is actually edit out my mess ups and just leave in the good stuff. So this part was okay. And then, oh, let's try that again, right? I didn't do Angela comes from Long Island very well. I did that a couple times. In fact, here's the good take down here. So I can actually just click and highlight all this, then hit the backspace key on my keyboard. And when I do that, if you look in the timeline at the same time, it's going to edit all that out and move everything over at once. And we can listen to how that sounds. Freshman at Sacred Heart University. Angela comes from Long Island, where she attended Wheatley High School and was the president of the video club during her junior and senior years. In addition to her involvement in the video club, Angela was also a member of the gymnastics club, with the flow routine being her favorite event. She is also a black belt in Taekwondo and practices the extreme stylings of parkour and is a certified stunt trainer. Now the rest of it was pretty good. I could also, I need to cut out this last part. So I'm going to highlight that and delete it. And you can also click this little filter button and I can look for all the pauses. and it finds all the pauses, I can say delete all pauses, and it gets rid of those as well. You can also you can search for filler words. So if you're doing a conversation, you can find those filler words and it'll delete them. But here we are, we edited it down. It wasn't that much to edit, which is pretty good. So again, here I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. I want to move this over because we're also going to add some music underneath. So I want to have a little bit music introduction, maybe about 5 seconds or so, and then let the dialogue play and then end with some music afterwards. So to do that, what we're going to do is we need to move this over a little bit. So first we're going to click this little tool here. This is my track select forward tool. When I click on that, anything from there on is selected, and I can go ahead and just move this to about 5 seconds forward. Oops. Doesn't have to be perfect. And there we go. I always want to make sure I go back to my selection tool afterwards so I don't mess things up, and click anywhere to deselect all that. Now let's get this sounding good. I think I want to show you that real quick. So I'm going to again highlight all that. So another way to highlight all your tracks, you could click and drag and draw a marquee box around them, and that'll highlight your audio again. Or you can use that selection tool again to click and select everything forward. Or I can hit Control or Command A on my keyboard and it will select all. So again, on my workspaces here, I want to go to my audio workspace. Now, this has already tagged it. It automatically tagged this as dialogue. You can see it on the top right here. I'm just going to clear this for a second. If it doesn't tag it automatically, you'll have this screen here where you can say this is a dialogue track, and it'll tag that as dialogue. And what that now does is give us some features specific for dialogue tracks. And the most important one I want to look at is this enhanced speech. I'm going to click on enhance. You'll see now it's rendering it down here, doing some fancy stuff. And I don't want to do anything else while this is happening because it's going to take away from my rendering. But you'll actually see now, I'm going to make this a little taller. It increased the volume, and it also made it fill the audio on both sides of the track. It recognized that there was only audio on my left channel and made it in the right channel as well. So now I listen to it.
Hello, this is Keith Strovey with a student profile. Recently I sat
It has enhanced it. It's made it louder. It took away some background noise. It changed the EQ on my voice a little bit, all with that one little button. So it's a really powerful tool. I like to do that after I edit because if I do it before I edit, it's going to do it on more than one thing. And I find that every time you make a cut, it reapplies the effect. So it's nice to do it afterwards sometimes instead of beforehand. So now let's go ahead and bring some music underneath here. For that, let's go to the internet. And this is one of the websites I recommend for this. I have a list of it on Blackboard that you can check out. This is bensound.com, and they have a free musics tab. So you can go ahead and find, listen to all these. You can search by style, so cinematic, inspiring, corporate, whatever you want to do. Of course, just make something that, find a piece of music that kind of matches what you want. You don't want to necessarily get something that's not appropriate for what you're doing, that's too dramatic or too scary kind of thing. So I already have some downloads. I'm just going to open up my folder here where I already have some music. Now it's important when you do this that if you download your downloads folder, then copy to the hard drive that you're working off of, because if you delete it from your downloads folder later on and you open up the project again, it's going to be missing. So always keep all your content together. In fact, you'll see if I open up a new Finder window here, and we navigate to where my project is. So here's our project folder, and inside here we have, this is the audio I captured already when I recorded myself, plus my autosaves. And you also want to store anything else you bring in from outside in here as well. So that way, if you have this on an external hard drive, when you move it from place to place, everything's together. If you copy it from the downloads folder, it might not be there when you go there later on. So I'm going to use this New Frontier file. And I also have another text file next to it. You'll notice on Bensound anyways, when you download it, you get this license code that comes with it and a little accreditation that you'd want to copy and paste onto like YouTube, so that way you don't get dinged for it being a copyright violation. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this right to my audio too. Now it also adds this to my project window as I do that, and it's underneath my dialogue track. Now I'm going to zoom out all the way, so I'm going to use my minus button, or I can use the backslash key. It zooms out all the way. You can see this is, of course, much longer than what I need it to be. I only need it to be maybe that long, right? I need to be like 60 seconds, but it is 2 minutes, 40 seconds long. So we're going to have to shrink that down. Again, inside Premiere, there's a really cool feature. I'm going to have this track highlighted, come back to my Essential Sounds tab on the right here, and there is an option called duration. So if this is not open all the way, troll that down, hit the little toggle button over here to turn that on. It's going to analyze the clip real quick. And now that's analyzed, we can do what's called a remix. So I could type in my target time here, or come down to my tools here, click and select my remix tool. I'm going to bring my mouse to the end of that music track. I'm just going to click and drag it to about where I want it to be. And it went ahead and remixed that track. Let's mute I'm just going to solo the music track. And you can see where those little zigzag lines are kind of where it made a little cut. But you can't tell at all that it did it. Let's unsolo that. Now, when you listen to the music and the vocals together, hello, this is Keith Strip. The music is, of course, way too loud. So what we need to now do is lower the music below the dialogue. And again, there's another automated way to do this without having to go in and make a bunch of keyframes. Again, I come to my right here where it says ducking while I have that selected. So I have my music track selected, come back here. I'm going to try on ducking. What ducking means is it's going to automatically lower itself below a certain kind of track. So when I turn that on, it's going to duck against dialogue. And this is my sensitivity. This is how much it's going to duck below. I know that's going to be too low, so I'm going to actually drag my slider to like -24 dB. And I can change how fast the fade is, things like that. I'm going to leave everything else like that for now. Just hit generate keyframes. Sometimes it takes a second, but once it's done, now you can see, if I zoom in here, it created these little keyframes. So these little dots here are keyframes, and it has made a fade here to go below, and then again a fade up at the end. So if we listen to it now.
Hello, this is Keith Strovey with a student profile. Recently, I sat down with Angela.
And that is really nice. So that is how I get to have that and be a spot where
Keith Strovey with a student profile. Thanks for listening.
The music's at a good level, I can understand the dialogue, and I've created an audio podcast. So from here, I could export just the audio. But we're going to go a step further. We're going to add some visualizations to this. So now I need to go to my graphics panel. So I'm going to go up again back to my top right, go to my captions and graphics panel. And we're going to click on the tab for graphic templates. And you might have to download this. It might not be on your computer already. It's right here for me, but I'm going to go tell you where to find it. So if you click on the Adobe stock, make sure you type off free. And in the search, type in waveform and then press return. There's the waveform template. Now, this looks pretty cool. It does not match your audio. It's not like a one-to-one representation, but it looks pretty cool. And it makes it better than just a blank screen. So I'm going to click and drag this right onto your video 1 track. And if it's your first time, it's going to download it first before it does it. Now you'll notice it does not cover the whole track. So we're going to have to copy and paste it to make sure it covers the whole thing. But first, before we do that, let's change it, because by default, this is what it looks like.
Profile. Recently, I sat down with...
It's cool, but we can make it cooler. So if you double click on it, now we can personalize it. You see on the right side here, I can change the colors and all kinds of things. So I can click in here and I can change this color. I don't know which color I changed right there. That's the back over there. I can change the bar colors. Maybe make this hot pink. I can change the grid colors as well. oops. I can change the grid width. I can change this color. Let's change this, right? You can go through and change all these things. So go ahead and take your time and just play around, find something that you like, bar thickness, bar height. I can change all this stuff. Shadows. Take a moment, customize this to how you want it. Once you like it, now you'll see this red bar here. That means it's not fully rendered. So when you preview it right now, it's going to be a little blurry. It's not going to be perfect. You might want to see what that looks like before committing to it. So if you want to do that, what you do is then come up to your sequence up here and say render effects in and out. And that will go ahead and render all the effects. Or you can just click on it and say render selection. Now it'll just take time, like about a minute, to render that out so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to say I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm going to copy it. So you can just select it and hit right click and copy is one way of doing it. And I want to go to the end of that. So I'm going to hit the down arrow on my keyboard, which brings me, you see that goes through all the different edit points, brings me to the end of there. I'm going to command paste. And that brings me right to the end. Command paste as many times as you need to get to the end. And if one clip is a little too far, you can bring your mouse to the end and just drag it back a little bit. So you can always make sure it fits exactly to the end of your timeline in your audio. Let's add one more thing. Let's add a little title in here. Because you know what? We have visualization. Let's bring some more into that. So I have just under my generic templates, we have a bunch of lower thirds, we call them. So we type in lower third and hit search. You're going to find a bunch of lower thirds in there. Again, you can also go to Adobe Stock and type in lower third and see what you find in there as well. Make sure you always hit that free button so you're downloading free ones and you're not paying for any of this stuff. I'm just going to use something very simple for mine right now. Any of these, if you hover over them, you can kind of preview their motion, which is pretty cool if they have motion. Some of them do, some of them don't. I could also look for a title as well, but I'm going to stick to lower third right now. Click and then drag this into like about here. Now I put this on the video 2 track. Now this one, I have a couple lines. To change anything, I'm going to click right inside the video frame here. I can double click on it. And I can go ahead and put this in. There, I gave myself a little title.
Hello, this is Keith Strovey with a student profile. Recently, I sat down with Angela Salvatore, a freshman at Sacred Heart University.
So I had a little motion. I could do a different one that's the whole length. I could even just come in here, hit the type tool, and type right into here whatever I wanted to, and then modify that afterwards. So there's a lot of different options in here. We're not going to get into all the possibilities because there are a lot. But now I have this. Now I'm ready to export this and go ahead and put it up on YouTube and then get it onto my website. So from here, we're going to go to File, Export Media. And now up here, it takes the name of the timeline that you created. So if you did good naming with your timeline, it's already a great name. Under here, this is your location. You want to click on this and make sure that you are going to the folder you want to go to. So I'm going to navigate to my folder, and I like to make a new folder inside there called Exports. And then hit save. And then from here, we can hit the export button. And this will just take a couple minutes to export the file. And once it's done exporting, now if we go back to our folder, Here's our video.
Hello, this is Keith Strovey with a student profile. Recently, I sat down with Angela.
And now that we have it rendered out, always make sure you preview your videos, make sure everything's correct and how you like it, so you can always go back and change it before you submit it on your assignment page. And that's how you make your podcast inside Premiere Pro and export it. Your next step is going to be to upload it to YouTube and then put it on your website.